Okay, guys, today we're going to talk about trig functions and our x, y, and r definitions. So, our unit circle lives on an xy axis. So we're going to end up having to use points and circles and triangles to find the distance from the origin to a certain point that we're given. So here, if I give you the point x comma y, so let's pretend I gave you the point like 1 comma 2. Okay, 1 is on x, 2 is on y, your point would be like approximately here. So if I wanted to find the distance from the origin to that point, I would have to maybe use the distance formula from geometry. But if you don't remember the distance formula from geometry, you can actually just draw that into a triangle and use Pythagorean theorem. Okay, so if you drop an altitude, ooh, fun fact, an altitude is a line that creates a right angle, okay, in a triangle, from that point up at the top to the x-axis. That distance of the blue line right there is just going to be 2, because that's the y value that the point is located at. The x value of this was 1, okay, from right here, my x and my y. So to get the distance of that red line, you would need to do Pythagorean theorem. Now, if you didn't have numbers, if we just wanted to talk about our general formulas, the bottom of that triangle is always going to be your x value. Okay, the altitude of the blue portion of that triangle is always going to be your y value. And then we want to determine the distance r from the origin to our point. That red line right there is going to be called our r value. So instead of doing a squared plus b squared equals c squared for our Pythagorean theorem, we're going to do x squared plus y squared equals r squared. And this will come in handy when we do our unit circle, because our unit circle is going to have x and y coordinates because it's on an x and y axis. So we're no longer using SOHCAHTOA. Okay, now we're going to use x, y, and r to define our trig functions. I know we love SOHCAHTOA. So this is how we used to solve right triangles. Okay, SOHCAHTOA. Sine was opposite over hypotenuse. Okay, they told us that we're going to use angle t instead of theta. You can use whatever letter you want. You can use x, you can use theta, you could use a different Greek letter like alpha or beta. Okay, it's just a variable. So angle t is always going to be the angle created at the origin. So it's going to be this guy right here. He's angle t. What's opposite of angle t? Yeah, that's your y value. Your hypotenuse is r, and your adjacent is now x. So if I was doing SOHCAHTOA, sine would be opposite over hypotenuse, but now it's going to be y over r. So sine of t is now defined as your y value divided by your r value. Remember, cosecant is just flipped over, so that would be r over y. Cosine would be adjacent over hypotenuse. Your adjacent from this angle t right here is x. So my new definition of cosine is going to be x over r. R is my hypotenuse. Secant is just flipped, so r over x. Tangent is usually TOA, or opposite over adjacent. For my triangle up above, my opposite was y. My adjacent was x. So my new definition of tangent is y divided by x. So cotangent is going to be x divided by y. These definitions are very important to remember for when we're trying to create the unit circle. So SOHCAHTOA is no longer a thing. Now, if you forget the definition, you can totally use SOHCAHTOA to figure out the right answer and figure out the formula. Okay, so let's try. If I gave you the point 2, 7, okay, then it says find the exact value of all of the trig functions. So if I graph that point, 2, 7, that's going to be in the first quadrant because x is positive and y is positive. So 2, 7 would be approximately right there. Let's make a triangle out of it so that we can do Pythagorean here. The hypotenuse of the triangle should always extend from the origin. That's what I don't know. That's my R value. I haven't solved for that yet. But I do have an X value of 2 and a Y value of 7. How are you going to get the hypotenuse? Oh yeah, you're going to do Pythagorean theorem, or you can do x squared plus y squared equals r squared. I know my x is 2 and my y is 7. I just need my r, my distance from the origin. So 2 squared is 4. 7 squared is 49. And that equals r squared. Add those together, 53 equals r squared. No, it is not 53. Take the square root of both sides. R equals the square root of 53. That's not a nice number. It doesn't simplify. So r equals square root of 53 is the answer for your distance or your hypotenuse. If you forget your x, y, r definitions, you can totally use SOHCAHTOA to help you figure them out. So theta is always going to be the angle created by the origin. Your opposite is going to be 7. Your hypotenuse is going to be square root of 53. And your adjacent is going to be 2. I know that sine is my y value over my r value. Let's see if we get the same thing by using SOHCAHTOA. And for so, we would use O over H, so that would be 7 over square root of 53. Y was 7, and R was square root of 53. So 7 over square root of 53 is your final answer. No, you do not have to rationalize. You can leave it like that if you want. And that is your final answer, whether you use SOHCAHTOA or you use your y divided by r definition. To get cosecant, you take it and flip it over. So it'd be square root of 53 over 7. For cosine, that should be a over h, so that would be 2 over square root of 53. That's perfect. But what is your cosine new definition? Not a over h, but x over r is cosine. A secant is just going to be this fraction flipped over. Square root of 53 over 2. My new definition for tangent is y divided by x. Guys, that's the one that you can always get right without doing Pythagorean theorem. What's your y value? Oh, it's 7. What's your x value? Oh, it's 2. 7 over 2 is tangent of theta. Let's go check and see if TOA gives us the same answer. So my opposite is 7 and my adjacent is 2. Okay, 7 over 2 gives me the same answer, whether I use y divided by x or O divided by a from SOHCAHTOA. Cotangent would be flipped, 2 over 7. Everybody thinks the next process is different, but it's exactly the same. This time, what quadrant is that point going to be in? It's a quadrant third. My x is -1. My y is -2. I'm trying to find the distance from the origin, so my hypotenuse should come out of the origin. And I have to do Pythagorean theorem to find my hypotenuse and my r value. So I would do x squared plus y squared equals r squared. Notice, guys, you don't have to really draw a triangle for this one. You actually really don't have to draw a triangle for any of them if you know your x, y, and r definitions, because it's always going to be this square plus this square equals r squared. Remember to use parentheses with negatives. -1 squared is 1. -2 squared is 4. So 5 equals r squared. So r is equal to the square root of 5. You can use SOHCAHTOA if you so choose. Remember that theta is always the angle created from the origin, so it should be closest to the origin. This would be your opposite, this would be your hypotenuse, and this would be your adjacent, but we're not in geometry anymore. We're in pre-calc. So we're going to use our x, y, r definitions. I know sine is y divided by r. Y was -2. R was square root of 5. So -2 over square root of 5 is your answer. Flip that over. Negative square root of 5 over 2 is cosecant. Cosine is x over r. So that would be -1 for my x value over square root of 5 for my r value. Flip it to get secant. square root of 5 over negative 1. Notice how in cosecant I put the negative on the top. Math people really like negatives on the top of their fraction, so I'm going to take this guy and I'm going to move that negative up to the top of my fraction and make it negative square root of 5. Or you can put it out in front. Finally, tangent should be y divided by x. This should be the one that you should always get right because you don't have to do Pythagorean theorem. Y is negative 2. X is negative 1. Negative 2 divided by negative 1 is positive 2. Take your fraction and flip it over for cotangent. That would be positive 1 over 2 for cotangent. Let's see what's on the next page. Ooh, I love this question. So, if you go to draw a triangle for this one, it doesn't make a triangle. 0, 5 is up here. How are you going to do that if there's no triangle? How are you going to do Pythagorean theorem? How are you going to do SOHCAHTOA? You're not. You're going to use your new definitions. My new formula is x squared plus y squared equals r squared. So you're just going to use your x and y right here. A 0 squared, wait a minute, plus 5 squared equals r squared. Okay, 0 squared is just 0. 5 squared equals r squared. You can do all of this work, and you're going to get r equals 5. So I know x equals 0, y equals 5, and r equals 5. Guys, r is distance, so it has to be a positive number. Okay, so now that we have our x, y, and r, we can do our sine, cosine, and theta, and then find our reciprocal functions. So sine of theta, our new definition, is y over r. My y value is 5, my r value is 5, so, well, crazy, that reduces to 1. If you flip 1 over, you're still going to get 1 for cosecant of theta. The cosine of theta, this is awesome, because cosine is x over r. X is 0. R is 5. 0 divided by 5 is 0. But if you take that fraction and you flip it over, you end up with 5 divided by 0. I don't know if you've ever asked Siri what happens when you do 0 divided by 0 or anything divided by 0, but she literally makes fun of you and tells you you have no cookies and no friends. Okay, so you cannot divide by 0. If 0 is on the bottom of your fraction, your answer is undefined. And anytime you have 0 on the bottom, your answer is always going to be undefined. So then when you go to do tangent, I think that's y divided by x. Oh yeah, definitely is. So tangent's y divided by x. My y value, this is the one you should always get right because you don't have to do Pythagorean theorem. My y value is 5. My x value is 0. Oh my gosh. 5 divided by 0 is undefined again. If I take the fraction and flip it over, I get 0 divided by 5. If I have nothing and I divide it among 5 people, I still have nothing. So 0 on the top is 0. 0 on the bottom is undefined. I think something similar happens in the next one. It does. So this one, your point is at negative 10, 0. So it's all the way back here on your x-axis. Still no triangle, still no SOHCAHTOA. So you have to do our new x squared plus y squared equals r squared. Okay, negative 10 squared plus 0 squared equals r squared. Negative 10 squared is 100, 0 squared is nothing. I think you're getting the point. Square root both sides. R is distance, so it has to be positive. So my r is equal to 10. My x is equal to negative 10, and my y is equal to 0. So now I can do my x, y, r definitions. Sine of theta is now y divided by r. So it's going to be 0 over 10, which is just 0. If I flip that fraction, 0 is going to be on the bottom, and 0 on the bottom is undefined. Cosine is x over r, so that's going to be negative 10 over 10, which is negative 1. If you flip that fraction, it's still going to stay negative 1. Tangent of theta is y divided by x. This is the one that you should always get right, because you don't even have to do Pythagorean theorem. So it would be 0 divided by negative 10, which is just 0. Cotangent is flipped when you flip that fraction over. Negative 10 over 0. 0 on the bottom is undefined. Okay, so then it says here, this is really cool. This is important for our unit circle. What if we made our radius 1? Okay, again, it says in parentheses right here, we do this because the unit circle has a radius of 1. So if I make my distance from 0, or my radius, equal to 1, oh, there's no r there. Okay, then sine of theta is really just your y value, and cosine of theta is really just your x value. So guys, when you do coordinates on your unit circle, what comes first, y or x? X comes first. So your coordinates are really going to be cosine, comma, sine, every time. Okay, sine is always going to be y, cosine is always going to be x on your unit circle, because your radius is 1. Cosine is going to be 1 over y. Secant is going to be 1 over x. And tangent is going to stay exactly the same. So you can find all of these values just by knowing your x and y coordinates if your radius or your distance is 1. That's only if we tell you it's on the unit circle, or if it tells you the distance is 1. Here, we solved for the distance and we got 5. So it's not going to work. It only works if your radius or your distance is positive. Okay, so here, oh hey, I can write it again. Point P has coordinates cosine, comma, sine. Okay, so if my radius is 1, if this distance is 1, this point right here is located at 1, comma, 0. That means this point back here is located at negative 1, comma, 0. Remember, this is your x and this is your y. So this point up here is at 0, 1, and at the bottom this point is 0, negative 1. Okay, I don't know where this point P is. I have no information about him, but I know that his x value is going to be cosine and his y value is going to be sine. Okay, we're going to stop there for today. Hope you have a fantastic Thanksgiving, and I'll see you when you get back.